What I liked about Ann is just she was beautiful. She brought a lot of life to my life, which was so just focused on golf for the most part. And so she helped me see that there was a bigger world out there to live.
He was kind of a balance, that quiet balance to my everything, every being so loud and noisy and all of that. And also there was just an aspect of him. He would write me notes and cards, and he would drive me to class, but we would drive by the flower shop and he would buy me a single flower that I then had all day to carry around with me at class. The early years of our marriage were very difficult. First off, we kind of did everything backwards, where because we were sexually active early in our relationship, I got pregnant the summer before my senior year in college, and so we had a daughter, we had a child before we even got married. And at that point of when I announced that I was pregnant, Ben told me years later that he was about ready to break up with me after having dated for 3 years.
The early years in our marriage, I was clueless at the time of how bad they were. You know, this is all looking back. At the time, I just thought it was normal life, that I would drink a lot, and I just thought I'd continue playing golf with my friends and drinking, and life would just continue on with that. We gradually began to get farther and farther away from one another. I could feel the distance build, where eventually we were just existing together, living in the same place.
My weaknesses that led to the difficulties in my relationship with Ben were initially just my emotional unavailability. I had never really learned how to feel, and so I couldn't tell him how I felt because I didn't know. That combined with being a people pleaser, I never wanted anyone to dislike me, and so I always tried to do whatever I could so that people would like me.
I expected people to take care of me. In my home, I really wasn't required to do a lot. My mom did a lot, and I saw that modeled. And so I took that expectation with me into our relationship, and just expected Ann to really take control of everything. And that when something was required of me, if I didn't know how to do it, I would just avoid it and find some way to get out of it. And I wouldn't enter into something unless I knew that I could do it and do it well. And other weaknesses where I just didn't understand the impact of my drinking. It's what I grew up with. It's what I started doing when I was 13.
There was one instance that I definitely remember that I had 2 babies at home. He had been gone all day with his friends watching football, and he called me in the evening and said, "Hey, we're all gonna go play trivia at some bar tonight. See you later." He didn't invite me. He didn't say, "Do you want to find somebody to watch the kids and come join us?" And I just remember the hurt then, and just really kneeling down and just grabbing on hold of my children. And felt like they were all I had because I didn't have him. I didn't have his heart.
And it just continued on in that downward spiral until one day in my living room, I remember just crying and crying and crying, and walking over, and there was this big window, and I just screamed out of this window, and I didn't know who God was. I was searching and seeking, but I just screamed out this window that, "God, this can't be what you intended for my life. Either take me back or show me the way." And I really didn't know what I said. It was just in a moment of passion that came out of the core of who I was. But really in that moment, that's when my life began to change. Looking back, that I think in that moment the Spirit of God came in my life and began to touch who I really was as a man.
We were not best friends when we got married. We were not best friends for probably the first between 7 and 9 years of our marriage. But we have developed this deep, lasting, incredible friendship that I can't imagine losing him.
I really like my marriage today. My wife is a lot of fun to be with. She brings a lot of light into my life, whether we're just sitting on the couch being goofy with one another and cutting up, or whether we're doing ministry together, or whether we're riding around on our Mustang, just taking a ride just to relax and to de-stress for the day. we have a lot of fun. She likes sports. She's a bigger Mizzou basketball fan than I am, and so I love having a wife who gets excited about that, and she can yell and my ears hurt after some of the games we go to. But she's a blast to go do that with. And then we can also just talk deeply about our hearts and our fears and what we're afraid of, what we're concerned about, and what our dreams are, and how we hope to live out this last third of our life together.
He doesn't just leave me to my own defense. He comes and he pursues me, and he really draws my heart out of me and helps me to be a better woman.
I want couples to know that they can be in a really hard spot, and it can feel like they don't know how to do conflict. Like every time a conflict comes up, it goes badly. But that a couple can learn to communicate well when emotions are really high and tensions are really high. And if they're feeling very angry and hurt at the moment, it's still possible to talk with honor and respect and handle that situation in a way that builds the relationship up and doesn't tear it down.
I agree with that, and I think part of that process is getting to know yourself better and knowing what's going on inside of you when you're in the conflict with your spouse, and also getting to know them better and maybe understanding more about what's going on in them in the midst of that conflict, and running everything through the filter of what is better for our marriage, what's going to bring us closer together rather than bring us farther apart.